Well, this is where I'm putting a bivvy bag down tonight. This day has been so incredibly hard, and it's the first day I should not have set off straight away. I can't even begin to say how hard it's been, but if you look at this pathway here, I don't know, you probably can't even see it because it'll just look like a load of rocks. I ended up having to stop every 100 meters sometimes because I just couldn't do it. And the worst thing about it is I ran out of water. Now, on a 12-mile hike, or a 12-kilometer hike, you wouldn't think that was very bad. What that's done is, it's just killed me. I can't get any further.
Although I couldn't immediately see how I was going to get down into the valley, which is where I wanted to go, I was still convinced I was going in the right direction. I knew there was a water source about 500 metres from where I wanted to go to. That's what I was looking for next. Even though I was struggling with what was obviously dehydration, by now we've been about 18 hours without any water. I didn't feel thirsty, but I was convinced I was going to be arriving there at any time, literally at any time. That's really what kept me going, and it was important to me that Taxi got water, more so than I got water. And he kept running out front, and then he'd come back, make sure I was okay, then he'd run off up front again, then he'd come back, make sure I was okay. And maybe what happened was he could smell the water that I didn't, because when I rounded a corner, there he was, knee deep in this pool of water, drinking away like there was no tomorrow. It was the biggest relief I've had for probably all my life. Even though the water tasted a bit earthy, I still trust the water that comes out of the mountains in Spain. And we sat there for an hour. I was sipping at water. Taxi had drunk his load and was quite happy to just sit down. I was still convinced I was in the right place. Still convinced. Was pretty sure there was half a kilometre maybe to go now. Over that ridge that I could see in the distance. Everything right up until that point was still going to plan, although it hadn't quite worked out as it should have done. Everything was still as I had it in my head. The fact that I'd seen the place, I'd walked in the general direction of where I expected to go to. We'd hit the water that I was expecting to hit, and now we were coming to a track that I could see that I assumed was going to take me down the last 500 metres to the place I wanted to stay. Nothing till this point made me suspect I was doing anything wrong. So we got up, started walking on from the pathway down onto this track, followed the track up. It came over a small prow, and there I could see a town and the sea. And I was thinking, how can this be? How can I be pointing back towards the sea again? So I sat down and I looked at the GPS, and the only thing that I could come up with was that although those waypoints that I hadn't deleted right at the beginning, they weren't connected to a route, but somehow the GPS had decided to direct me along those, and it was taking me back to Banyuls-sur-mer, and that's the town that I could see in the distance now. So now I was faced with the decision: do I go back into the mountains and try and find where I'm supposed to be, or do I go down into Banyuls-sur-mer and by water recover, make sure Taxi's okay, and set off the next day? I decided on the latter because I was feeling so sorry for Taxi by that time. He wasn't at fault, and I couldn't make him understand. So I decided to go down into Banyuls-sur-mer. The way down into Banyuls wasn't all that easy, and I ended up getting somebody to give me a ride down into the town. He dropped me off at a supermarket, and the campsite was across the road. So that was the end of nothing really. But there's still more to tell.